Okay, so for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at a really interesting topic. It seems like everyone's been sending us articles and research about AI lately.
Yeah, it's definitely the hot topic of the moment. And,
Yeah.
there's so much to unpack.
And a lot of the stuff you sent over focuses on the impact of AI on the workplace,
Oh.
specifically what it means for, well, middle managers.
Right, right. It's like everyone's trying to figure out what happens to those middle layers when AI starts taking over tasks. Like, is there even a place for them anymore?
Exactly. And that's kind of what I found fascinating when I was going through everything you sent. Like, on the one hand, we have this long-standing idea that AI is going to make organizations leaner, potentially squeezing out those middle management roles.
Yeah, classic automation fear, right? Like the robots are coming for the middle managers first.
Right. But then some of these sources actually point to, well, maybe a totally different direction. Like maybe there's going to be an even greater need for managers in the age of AI. So I guess that's our mission for this deep dive, to figure out how AI is really reshaping the middle management function.
Exactly. And to do that, we've got a pretty impressive stack of sources to work with. We've got that great analysis by Tamer El-Tonsy, Accenture's report on AI, a declaration of autonomy, Deloitte's ongoing research on the value of managers.
And the ECB's research on AI adoption trends, that Gartner survey about HR priorities, McKinsey's perspective on middle managers and generative AI, and of course the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report for 2025.
Yeah, we're not short on material. And
Yeah.
I think taken together, they paint a really interesting and maybe unexpected picture of what's happening.
Okay, well, let's dive in. So you mentioned El-Tonsi's analysis. He makes a point that for a long time, middle management was kind of seen as the prime target for automation.
Right. It was almost like the poster child for a role that could be easily replaced by algorithms.
Yeah, I remember reading about that years ago, the image of the middle manager stuck in endless meetings, approving things, shuffling reports. Seemed like prime territory for AI to streamline, right?
Totally. Like, imagine all those spreadsheets and sign-off requests just handled by a system. No more chasing people for approvals or spending hours compiling reports.
But then, as you mentioned, we have research like the one from the European Central Bank that shows AI adoption might actually be driving an increased demand for managers. So what's going on here? Is it just like more of the same old management, just with a bit of AI sprinkled on top?
Not at all. It seems like AI isn't simply eliminating managers. It's actually changing what it means to be a manager. It's like a complete rewiring of the job description.
Okay, so how so? What's changing?
Well, El-Khanzi points out that a lot of the routine, predictable tasks that managers used to spend their time on, things like scheduling, basic cost control, even some types of performance evaluations, those are precisely the areas where AI is becoming really good.
So the AI can handle the more straightforward process-driven stuff. That makes sense. But then what's left for the human manager to do? What's their unique value in this new environment?
That's where it gets really interesting. El-Tanzi argues that the skills that become even more crucial are the ones that AI, at least for now, really struggles with. Things like interpreting uncertainty, making judgments in complex situations, and leading teams that include both humans and AI.
It's like the AI can crunch the numbers and analyze the data, but it's still the human who needs to understand what it all means, right?
Exactly. Managers are moving from a world of clear, deterministic rules to a world of probabilities and ambiguity. And that requires judgment, creativity, and a really nuanced understanding of context.
So it's less about following a set procedure and more about being able to adapt and make decisions when the path forward isn't clear cut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the whole issue of ethical dilemmas that come up with AI. Like, what happens when an AI system makes a recommendation that has negative consequences for employees? Who's ultimately responsible? That's a very human problem that requires human judgment and leadership to solve.
Yeah, that makes sense. AI can give you a solution, but it might not always be the right solution.
Right. And a good manager needs to be able to recognize that, understand the potential consequences, and make the right call.
So it sounds like the impact of AI on management is a lot more nuanced than just, robots taking over jobs.
Definitely. And El-Tanzi makes the point that the impact isn't even uniform across all levels of management.
Okay, so it's not like every manager is going to experience this shift in the same way.
Right. He suggests that some frontline managers, especially in roles that are very process-driven and repetitive, might actually see their roles consolidate or even disappear as AI takes over those tasks.
So it's not like every management job is safe. But I guess it's more about a shift in what those jobs entail rather than just a complete elimination.
Exactly. And as you move up the organizational ladder, middle and senior managers who are involved in integrating AI into the company's operations, those roles become even more important.
Because they need to figure out how to leverage AI to achieve the company's strategic goals, right?
Exactly. And McKinsey's research on generative AI is really interesting here. They argue that middle managers are actually key to unlocking the potential of this technology.
Generative AI, for those who haven't heard the term, is basically AI that can create new content, like writing text or composing music. But it sounds like it needs a human touch to be truly effective.
Right. It needs someone who understands the business context, the strategic goals, and can translate those into something the AI can work with.
So the middle manager becomes like the bridge between the AI and the real world.
Exactly. They understand both the big picture and the day-to-day realities of their teams, which is crucial for making generative AI work in a practical way.
Okay, so if the job of a manager is changing so much, what does that mean for the skills and competencies that companies are going to be looking for? Like, what's going to make a successful manager in this new world?
Well, El-Tonsy analyzed job postings from companies that are heavily using AI and found some really interesting trends. One of the biggest shifts is a move away from focusing on tactical execution to emphasizing strategic orientation.
So less about just getting things done and more about understanding the bigger picture and how to use AI to achieve long-term goals.
Right. And the analysis also highlights the growing importance of creativity, critical thinking, and judgment. These are the skills that humans excel at, and they become even more valuable as AI takes over the more routine tasks.
It's like AI can do the analysis, but you need a human to make sense of it all and decide what to do next.
Exactly. And then there's data literacy. It's not enough for managers to just be comfortable with technology. They need to be able to truly understand and interpret the data that AI is spitting out.
So it's not just about knowing how to use the tools, it's about being able to extract meaning and insights from the data.
Right. And with teams becoming more distributed and working more closely with AI, communication skills are becoming even more important.
Yeah, managers need to be able to clearly communicate their vision, provide guidance to their teams, and even communicate effectively with the AI systems themselves.
It's a whole new level of communication complexity.
So it seems like the traditional image of a manager as, the person who assigns tasks and monitors performance is really out of date. El-Tonsy used some great words to describe the new manager, words like coach, interpreter, translator, reframer, and even orchestrator. It's a completely different way of thinking about leadership.
Absolutely. The manager is becoming more of a guide and facilitator, helping their teams navigate this new world of human-AI collaboration.
But I guess this transition isn't going to be easy for everyone, right? El-Tonsy also talked about some potential friction in this evolution.
Right. And there are a couple of key challenges that organizations and managers are going to need to address. First, there's the issue of mindset. Some managers might be resistant to letting go of those traditional control-oriented management styles.
Yeah, it could be tough to give up that sense of being the one with all the answers and the authority to make all the decisions.
Exactly. And then there's the potential for this shift to expose gaps in a manager's skill set. Like, if you've always relied on following procedures and enforcing rules, this new environment, which requires adaptability and judgment, could be really challenging.
So organizations need to make sure they're providing the right kind of training and support to help managers develop those new skills.
Absolutely. And there's another layer to this, which El-Tonsy calls the psychological contract between managers and their teams. Basically, the unspoken agreement about what each side expects from the other.
And how is that changing?
Well, in the past, a manager's authority came largely from their position in the hierarchy. But now, authority is going to be based more on their demonstrable value in this new context. Their ability to provide guidance, interpret data, and make sound judgments.
So it's not just about being the boss anymore, it's about proving your worth as a leader.
Exactly. And that can be a difficult adjustment for some managers.
And I imagine this has implications for organizational design as well. El-Tonsy argues that just flattening the hierarchy, like getting rid of layers of management, isn't enough.
Right. It's not just about having fewer managers. It's about fundamentally rethinking how work gets done and how teams are structured.
So it's a much more profound change than just rearranging the boxes on the org chart.
Exactly. Organizations need to redesign their job architectures and their competency frameworks to reflect this new reality.
And HR has a huge role to play in all of this, right?
Absolutely. Gartner's research shows that leader and manager development is a top priority for HR right now. And El-Tonsy's analysis really highlights some specific areas where HR needs to focus. Things like revamping leadership development programs to emphasize sense-making, systems thinking, and data literacy.
So less about traditional management skills and more about helping managers develop the skills they need to lead in this new environment.
Exactly. And HR also needs to think about how to rebuild role families with a focus on tasks and capabilities rather than just job titles.
So looking at the actual work that needs to be done and figuring out what skills are needed to do it effectively.
Right. And they also need to be auditing their managerial pipelines to make sure they have people who are adaptable and can thrive in these changing roles.
And it sounds like HR technology also needs to evolve to support these changes.
Definitely. We need platforms that facilitate collaboration, provide coaching resources, and integrate seamlessly with AI tools.
So it's really a holistic transformation that involves people, processes, and technology.
Exactly. And it all comes back to that central point that El-Tonsy makes. It's not about eliminating managers, it's about recalibrating their roles.
And when you look at the other research you sent over, it really reinforces this idea. Accenture talks about the importance of trust in the age of AI and how human managers are going to be essential for building and maintaining that trust.
Right. People need to trust the AI systems they're working with, and they need to trust the managers who are leading those systems.
And Deloitte's research on the value of managers suggests that their value isn't disappearing, it's just shifting.
Exactly. Their value is in their ability to interpret data, guide teams, and navigate the complexities of this new world.
And then you have the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, which I'm guessing highlights the importance of those uniquely human skills that AI can't replicate.
Right. Things like creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and complex problem solving. Those are the skills that are going to be in high demand.
So it sounds like the future of middle management is actually pretty bright, but it's not going to be the same old management.
Definitely not. It's going to be more strategic, more human-centric, and more focused on navigating the complexities of a world where humans and AI work side by side.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that AI isn't going to make managers obsolete. It's going to transform them into something new, something arguably even more important.
I agree. And I think it's an exciting time to be a manager or to be thinking about becoming one.
So for everyone listening, I think it's worth asking yourself, how is AI impacting management in your organization? What skills do your managers need to develop to succeed in this new environment? And are your leadership development programs preparing them for this new reality?
Those are great questions. And I think the answers are going to be different for every organization.
But it's a conversation that every organization needs to be having. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. And I hope it's given our listeners some food for thought as well.